Every year it gets me. Every year Google puts out their year in search. The 2022 one is pretty wild. There's a lot on here. I mean, a lot happened this year. I'm only interested in one thing though. The most searched recipe in 2022 comes from India, which something happened in like March to April to make this jump so heavily. So if anyone knows what happened, let me know. Never made this before. I'm gonna see what I can find online about this, see if I can find some recipes and try my hand at making it. We're gonna one try this. So I'm gonna give this one shot. I'm not gonna pre-make it. This looks delicious. I want to eat this. I guess let's go into the kitchen and make it. Join me as I cook Paneer Pasanda. First, I needed to gather the ingredients that I didn't have on hand, which meant taking a trip to the nearest Indian grocery store. I headed to the souk at Pike Place, and the woman there was so helpful and kind and gave me a bunch of advice. Here are some of the things that I was excited to get. Kashmiri chili powder is bright red, decently spicy, and a little smoky. It's sort of like a better cayenne plus smoked paprika. It's dope. Green cardamom is probably the best smelling spice on the planet. Whole cumin seeds really do smell way more floral and woody than the pre-ground stuff, so definitely worth it. The filling for the paneer includes golden raisins along with cashews, and you get a nice texture from both of them. I wanted to grab some legit bay leaves since the ones in my kitchen have been around for way too long. I also grabbed some green chilies for the filling along with the paneer itself. Ginger garlic paste seems to be a staple in many Indian dishes, so I got these bad boys too. Pumped to use them in tons of other things though. Needed some ghee for cooking, and the final thing I didn't have was fenugreek. Shopping at specific grocery stores is one of my favorite things in the world, and I always make it a point to visit stores when we travel. I suggest you do the same. You never know what you're gonna find. As soon as I found all the ingredients I needed, I immediately got to cooking. Since the back half of the recipe calls for making a gravy for the paneer to mingle in, I started there. People seem to be split on if the gravy is onion and cashew based or tomato, onion, and cashew based, but I liked the look of the tomato option, so I went with that. I think it was the right call though. In the end, the tomatoes brought a delicious sweetness. I sliced several tomatoes along with a bunch of red onions. It's winter time, so the best option was cherry tomatoes. Next, I started browning the onion. The flavor of browned onion is really important for many Indian dishes, but I might not have taken these far enough. The final dish ended up tasting really good, but I want to make this again to see if further browning would do anything for the taste. I wiped out the pan and switched to making the tomato base. These are going to be blended separately, but then we'll marry them together at the end. The tomatoes get a nice little love with cardamom and a cinnamon stick. Could these have gone in with the onion? I don't actually know. Maybe that matters, maybe it doesn't. Also, a few cashews got to join the party to bring some beautiful richness and creaminess. This kind of just simmers until softened. Growing up, I didn't really see a lot of dishes that used cardamom or cinnamon in a savory way, so I love that and I want way more of it. I blended up the onions with a little water to make the brown onion paste, then I blended the tomatoes to make the creamy tomato base. To strain or not to strain? I went with straining, but again, people seem pretty split. The tomato base tasted really delicious, light, floral, and slightly sweet. This technique of making separate bases to mix later is really cool and brings a ton of depth. You can flavor each section really well, and it makes the final dish way more complex. The paneer itself was a little tricky to find a ton of info on. None of the recipes outright mentioned soaking the paneer in water, but I kept seeing that in other places to make it softer and more malleable, so I went for it. I think those recipes sort of knew people would understand to do so because it definitely helps soften and warm up the cheese. I needed to make a bright herby filling for the cheese, but that meant inviting my arch nemesis cilantro to the party. I really wanted to leave it out, but I see the importance of it in Indian food, so I wanted to respect that. That went into a blender along with the mint and 2 chilies. I was hoping the chilies would kind of blot out the cilantro's soapy transgressions. My filling ended up being a little bit more brown than I would have liked. I think the combination of Kashmiri powder and discolored herbs sort of caused that. The process of stuffing the paneer was just as challenging as it was rewarding. I think my filling was maybe too chunky and not wet enough, and I definitely would have cut the paneer differently next time. The triangles I tried to make were too hard to fill, so you can see I gave up on them almost immediately. Rectangles work well, and you can cut them in half at the end, so learn from my mistakes and just go with the rectangles. After filling these little sammies, I battered them in a combination of chickpea flour and water. I was pretty unsure of the structural integrity of these guys, but this filling combo ended up tasting crazy good, and it made the paneer in the final dish really easy to crush with some roti. Kind of blew me away how well this worked. The paneer frying experience is one that left a mark on me, and I mean it. I thought I was crushing it until the paneer immediately stuck to the pan. Being mindful of not overcooking them, I tried moving them around to get them unstuck. One of the triangles really didn't like that and spit some hot oil straight into my eye. Really fun stuff there. My lens was a casualty as well, so I apologize. The next few shots look wrapped in Vaseline.
Learn from me and be safe when frying, also maybe go on like medium-low. Triangles were lost, some got over-browned, but at least a few made it by relatively unscathed. Although this section didn't go as planned, the paneer ended up being pretty well cooked, soft, deliciously tender, it was nice. I want to film more things with the spiced cashew raisin stuffing because that combination was nuts. I'm definitely going to be cooking with a whole lot more ghee after this. It smelled so freaking good. Adding the cumin, bay, and ginger garlic paste took this to magnificent heights. I'm so used to just sauteing garlic and onion for a lot of bases, and don't get me wrong, I love it, but this was on a whole nother level. I can't wait to cook more like this. I added both the tomato and onion paste and cooked them down until thickened and mixed. At this point, everything started to look pretty recognizable from what I saw online, so I was getting stoked. This got more Kashmiri chili along with some turmeric for color. Water went in to adjust the texture, and I tasted for seasoning. Sweet heavens, that's some good gravy. The last few things to go in were some salt, sugar, garam masala, and fenugreek. I really liked where this was landing, I just needed to nail the thickness. Thickness was achieved, and the final touch was building a few plates for MK and I. Also, the wonderful woman at the grocery store told me to get these roti, so these are now in our rotation and we pretty much always have them on hand. For the final plating, I cut these into more manageable bite-sized pieces, then covered them in delicious and tangy gravy. A little heavy cream was added just to look pretty, not too shabby if I do say so myself. I had such an incredible time making Paneer Pasanda. Although I definitely made a few mistakes along the way, my first attempt cooking it turned out pretty good, rich and flavorful, thanks to all the recipes available online. I'm gonna link all the resources and recipes I used for research in the description, so go check them out for a more detailed look at how to make this incredible recipe. Huge shout out to all the work that they do to make this dish accessible to someone like me.
This is Google's most searched recipe of 2022. This is the first time I've really made Indian food at home. So it was really exciting for me to get to make this, to learn about the ingredients, to learn about the spices and herbs that were going into it, because a lot of it was stuff that I don't use in everyday cooking. I want to make a lot more Indian food. So please tell me what I did wrong. Whoa. It's almost hard to put into words the complexity that comes from the sauce. There were raisins, there were cashews that went into the stuffing of this, and it isn't leaning sweet at all. So the paneer itself is still soft. It's not like super dense, chewy, blowing my mind a little bit with the deliciousness. There's no crunch at all left in the outside of the paneer itself. Let's do a little roti. You got your paneer, you got your roti, you got your gravy. Damn, this is really, really good. I'm loving it.
If you like what I'm doing here, you like my channel, consider supporting me on Patreon like these amazing people do. Subscribe and like the video if you really, really enjoyed it. Cheers.